Hello there, welcome to this video on how jazz repertoire is just one song, and it's my job to convince you by the end of this video that that is the case. So likes, comments, subscriptions welcome. Be sure to press the bell to be notified and have a look at my books, blog and podcast. I'm going to direct you first of all to the description box below where there's a link to an excellent website called jazzstudies.us, and it is basically an online fake book for free, has all the repertoire from the 20s, 30s and 40s. I'm going to invite you to comment below on the chord progression of your favorite song or songs so that other people can see that, because you know often people start a video and they press pause and they look at the comments first. So to take advantage of that, I'd like people coming to this video who haven't even heard me speaking this sentence yet, that they're going to pause it, look at the comments and see people having posted the chord progressions in the format that I'm sharing with you, and they can just see that what I'm saying is really, really true. So, jazz is one song. That philosophy is something that I knew for many years, but I never really became conscious of until I became a bit more philosophically natured. And what it means is that the jazz repertoire is so similar in structure, in chord progression order, that you don't really need to learn. When you're learning any jazz repertoire, you're not actually learning the song. You're just learning the jazz song, that one song of jazz, which doesn't have a name, it's just called the jazz song, with a slight variation, maybe in a tiny different order, or a tiny exception. The rhythm is different, the melody of course, but the melody is the last thing. And so if you could just master these things, which for the first time I'm actually going to make a note of on the screen, and I do encourage you to write them down, and just master these progressions. They're so common, they're in every jazz song. And the point is that I want you to be able to look at that website, find a song that you want. I'll give some demonstrations, of course, in this video, and you're going to see for yourself just how unbelievable, really, it is to see that all these jazz songs are based on basically one song. And I mentioned this song in another video somewhere, but in case you haven't seen that, A Foggy Day, I've been talking about that song recently with someone, but really I came to realize that that song is the epitome of jazz in terms of structure. And there are other good examples, but really A Foggy Day is just fantastic. I want you to get to the point where you can just say something like this to yourself, or hear it from somebody else, or I'm telling you. I want you say to me, I'd like to learn A Foggy Day, a song that goes. Anyway, it goes on like that. And I'm going to say to you that this is how you play A Foggy Day, and you're going to understand that and play it in any key that you want. Of course, you need to have the song on your internal jukebox, but I'm going to talk about that in a moment. I'm going to say to you, oh, A Foggy Day, that's quite easy. It's 1 6 2 5 1 6 2 5 1. That's the first part. Floating 2 5 1 into the 4, upper 4, 3 6 2 5 1. Repeat. And then the end of it is a tiny difference, and it literally goes 1 2 3 4 2 5 1. That is A Foggy Day. Now that may not mean anything to you. All those numbers are based on the major scale. Of course you must know your major scales. You surely do by now. And if not, videos in the description box below to help you with that. So A Foggy Day is 1 in the key of F. It doesn't matter, but the main key is F. 1 6 2 G 5 C 1 F, and then again there's tiny differences each time, but these are I'm going to explain how to remember those in a moment. But it's basically 1 6 2 5 1 6 2 5 1, floating 2 5 1 into the 4, so C F B flat, upper 4 to E flat as a kind of branching off tag chord, and then 3 A 6 2 5 1. Repeat. Da, 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 da. Then when you get to the end, it's simply going to go 1 2 3 4 2 5 1. That's it. Basically like that. So everything I've just said in there is pretty much in every other jazz song that you'll ever learn. So let's start dissecting these chord progressions. You're going to master them. In numerically, you're going to master them. Of course, you can go to the piano and play them and get used to them, but learn them in your mind intellectually. Just remember them. So the first one, and I'll put them on the screen, is 2-5-1. These are all based on the major scale, and I'll demonstrate in the key of F. I seem to like F recently. So 2-5-1 in the key of F, for example. Play around with it. Just play block chords like this. What I'm doing here is playing a chord, but it's a rolling, ascending, rolling open chord. That's a nice way to play. So that's 2-5-1. That's the first thing. Now, often the 2-5-1, this is the second thing, is preceded by a 6. So in the key of F, it's going to be D minor 7, G minor 7, C7, F major 7. So that 6-2-5-1 appears. Let me give you some examples. Fly Me to the Moon is based on 6-2-5-1 in the key of C. It's literally based on it. What's another song? All the Things You Are is a 6-2-5-1 in the key of A flat. There's a 6-2-5-1 again. So All the Things You Are and Fly Me to the Moon begin with 6-2-5-1, two really famous jazz songs. So 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1. Now often the 6 is preceded by a 3. So this is the third one. 3-6-2-5-1, key of F, be A. 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So we have 3 at the moment. 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, 3-6-2-5-1. Remembering those intellectually will help you when you dissect music, which we're going to do in a moment. I'm going to use my trusty phone to give an example. Now, another common one is from blues, and that's 1-4-5. So key of F, it's going to be number 1, 4, B flat, C, 5. I'm hesitating because I wanted to play off because I said blues. Often you'll play a dominant 7 on there, so dominant 7 on top for the 1, dominant 7 for the 4, dominant 7 for the 5, and then 1 again. You don't really play a major 7 in the blues. It's too romantic. It needs to be bluesy. So 1-4-5. That's the fourth one. 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, 3-6-2-5-1, 1-4-5. And even no, let me say this actually. The next one is a pop one. Now there's a video I recommend going to watch. It's also linked below. You may have seen it already. If you haven't, I strongly recommend it. It's a video of a performance by an Australian band called Axis of Awesome. Perhaps you know it. If you don't, they have created some songs where they only play the chord progression 1-5-6-4. So key of F, 1-5-6-4. Sometimes that might begin on the 6. There's different variations, but it's still that sequence, 1-5-6-4. Even if you don't start on the 1, you start on the 6. And they're demonstrating, the video has tens of millions of views, that most of the pop music from the last 60 years uses this chord progression. Lady Gaga stuff, Queen, Elton John, Beatles, and other pop music stuff, all the way through for the last 60 years. 1-5-6-4. If you can therefore remember that intellectually, you can play 1-5-6-4 in any key. Do it in E flat. 1-5-6-4. Doesn't matter what the key is because you know your major scales. So that's a pop one, but still nice to know it. Another 2 for jazz are very similar, but they're very common. I'll give some examples. 1-2-3 is a very common one. An example would be My Romance, key of B flat. 1, 2, 3. I'm on the D now. And then it just continues with a 6-2-5-1. I'll explain that in a bit more detail in a moment, but that's still going 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. A song I've been talking about recently with someone is Skylark. Skylark is a lovely song. Key of E flat, main key, and that goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to 1. So that's a nice one. lovely melody. So let's make sure we have all those down. You're going to master these numerically away from the piano. 2-5-1. I'm going to say other things after. 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, 3-6-2-5-1. I think I said 1-4-5 next. Then this pop thing of 1-5-6-4. And then 1-2-3 and 1-2-3-4. They're very common. Now the next thing I want to say, there's two more things which come to mind. This is very, very important to remember because it happens in almost every song, whether it's pop or not, or jazz or not, doesn't matter, any song. Going up a fourth. Just that sentence, going up a fourth, happens so much. It's unbelievable. Now let me go back to Fly Me to the Moon, because that goes 6, 2, 5, 1, up a 4, and then continues. So and then it continues, and then going to the other song I said earlier, which was All the Things You Are, that also does 6, 2, 5, 1, up a 4 from A flat to D flat. So that goes I'm playing an F as a melody, but the chord is D flat. It's gone up a 4 from A flat. So All the Things You Are and Fly Me to the Moon are literally the same in the beginning. 6, 2, 5, 1, up a 4. If you're curious, All the Things You Are then does a floating 2, 5, 1, which is the next thing I want to say, into C, and Fly Me to the Moon does something else. It's irrelevant. So we've got all those chord progressions, and the next thing was, what was it? Many things to remember. I had two things to say. Oh yeah, going up a fourth, you've got that. The other thing I wanted to say is the floating 2, 5, 1, which is the same as the beginning one, but I'm putting it separate so you don't get too confused. I'm making it separate from the first 2, 5, 1. Floating 2, 5, 1 I have a video on in detail, but very basically it's where you temporarily go into a new route, but only temporarily, and often that route, which is temporary, is part of the master keys major scale. Think of an example of that. Oh well, A Foggy Day, of course. So the Foggy Day would go 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, back to 1. Then it does a floating 2, 5, 1 into the 4. So it's gone up a fourth. That's the first thing I just said, go up a fourth. But it's doing that via a floating 2, 5, 1. So B flat is in the master key of F, of course. And you're arriving on it as a temporary 1 via its own 2, 5, 1. So that bit there is a floating 2, 5, 1. And then that song goes 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, which is the third thing I told you. So the song is literally built on all of this. So there's a floating 2, 5, 1. That doesn't have to go into the 4. That can go into the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, 5th, 6th, major 7. It can even go into a minor, the flat 6. It can go into anything which is in the master key or not. But you'll remember that as floating 2, 5, 1 into the, and then whatever it happens to be. Another thing that actually happens quite often, which has come to mind, is just alternating between two chord types, which may be unrelated or related. But something that often happens is you might have a song that just goes 2, 6, 2, 6, 2, 6, like that for a while. It might just go in the key of, I know, F. It might just go 2, 6, 2, 6, 2, 6. Or it could be a minor, doesn't matter. That happens quite often as well. An alternation between two chord types happens quite a lot. Now, if you can remember those, they're on the screen. I don't have to remember them all again. I'll say them all again. You can see them on the screen. If you can master those numerically, you can really take on any jazz repertoire. And the exceptions are so few and far between that they're not hard to forget. Now, the next thing I want to say about all those is there are exceptions, but exceptions is a bit too much of a strong word, because it's more like they are common alterations rather than exceptions. So let me give you an example. When you play, I'll try and go through them and tell you the most common differences. So 2, 5, 1, it's quite common, not unusual, that the 2 is played as a half diminished. If you see that, don't be surprised. It's a common exception. D minor, 7, flat 5, to G7. Now, often, if you're a modal theory expert, you might be saying, or you might be saying that goes into a minor. Well, yeah, but not always. There's many songs where you see a 2 as a half diminished, but it goes into a major. So don't be stuck too much with modal theory, because the composers didn't follow it strictly either, and they're the ones that composed the music. So 2-5-1 can often be the 2 is a half diminished. Don't be surprised by that. When you get a 6-2-5-1, often the 6 likes to be a major third, not a minor third. I gave an example in the key of C there. I'll do one in F. So in the key of F, 6 is the D. Often it won't be D minor 7, it will be D7 with the F sharp. So don't be surprised that the 6 is a dominant 7 with a major third, not minor 7. 3-6-2-5-1 is interesting. The 3 is a bit awkward. The 3 can be different things. The 3 could be minor 7, according to modal theory. It could be half diminished. It could be whole diminished. It might be a sus 4, which resolves. That could happen. So when you see a 3 chord, just be aware that that can pretty much be anything it wants to be. So that's the 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, 3-6-2-5-1 with a few little alterations. The 1-4-5, which is blues, not really too much to say about that, because when it's blues, it's always dominant 7. The 1-5-6-4 that follows modal theory law. So 1 is major 7, or they don't play a major 7 in pop music often. It might just be, normally it's triad-based music. So 1-5, major third, 6 is minor, 4 is major. Nothing really too much to say about that. The 1-2-3, that follows modal theory. Nothing too unusual about that. 1-2-3-4, that's okay. Now, one thing I do want to say is this. What you will often find when you play a 6 chord is that it can be replaced by the minor when they are whole diminished. Let me give you an example. This happens in My Romance. It goes 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the sheet music in the versions I've used in the past, it will go to D flat whole diminished. Now, D flat whole diminished are groups of 4 notes. So you can play technically B flat, G, or E, or D flat whole diminished. Which of these is in the key of B flat? The G, or the B, of course, that's the root. But apart from the root, D flat is not in the key of B flat, E is not in the key of B flat, only G is. And G in the key of B flat is, how unsurprising, the 6. So what's happening is that what often happens in this kind of in jazz is that when you play, instead of playing a 6-2-5-1, the 6 has been replaced by its, here's a special word, tritone substitution. A tritone is 3 whole steps. 1, 2, 3. Look at that, D flat. See? That's why it's D flat. That's where it comes from. So the G, the 6, has been replaced by its tritone. And fortunately, they're in the same diminished group. So what you'll often find is 1, 2, 3. What would be 6 whole diminished is actually being just replaced as a minor whole diminished. And that's nice because there's a reason for that, because of something called, which I call a semitone drop. D flat is where we're on right now because of that tritone substitution. And also the D flat semitone drops onto the C, which is the 2, for the 2-5-1 into B flat, which is the master key of this piece, My Romance. So that's it, there's a reason for doing that. 1, 2, 3, 6, but tritone substitution onto the minor for the 2-5-1, and then it just goes up a 4 for no reason, because that happens often. So that's quite a nice thing to do there. Did I have anything else I wanted to say to you? No, I just want to give you some examples. So I'm going to open my phone of my cats. There you go. Little behind the scenes preview. And I'm going to go to that website. It's already here waiting for you. So the one I've got here is All the Things You Are. So as I was saying, This is, you don't need to see it on my phone necessarily. I want you to go and look for yourself, of course. This is just a demonstration. So, you know, it gives you the original key. Default major scale is A flat in this one. And you can see it's going F, which is 6, 2, 5, 1, upper 4, and then a floating 2, 5, 1 into C, because it's going D minor 7, G7, C major 7. And C is the third of A flat. So it's a floating 2, 5, 1 into C, into the third. So if I wanted to tell you how to play my row, I'll give you some more examples, but let me just demonstrate that. You say to me, how do you play all the things you are? I say, oh, it's an easy song. You just go 6, 2, 5, 1, key of A flat, but master key A flat, but any key, 6, 2, 5, 1, upper 4, floating 2, 5, 1 onto the third. There you go, oh, thanks. Sorry, starting on the 6, 6, 2, 5, 1, upper 4, floating 2, 5, 1 onto the third, D, G, C. And then it goes on to the next part, which you can dissect yourself. On the left, on the right, sorry, is the list of songs in here. So I'll just randomly go through, absolutely randomly, and pick out one that I recognize first. Body and Soul. I'll put it into, well, it doesn't matter what key it is, but just to keep it nice and easy for you, I'll put it in the key of C. So what do we have here? Body and Soul. Yeah, of course, this only works if you know the song, well, major scales I was going to say, but you have to know the song on your internal jukebox too, of course. So Body and Soul, it's going, I'm going to tell you the numbers here. D. I'll tell you the numbers when I say D. 2. Just turn off the battery saving. 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 5, 1. There we go. And here's something I said earlier. So there's a little bit of an alteration there. 2, 6, 2. Because earlier I said sometimes you can get 2, 6, 2, 6, 2. So it's happening here. And this was a random song. Haven't planned it. 2, 6, and the 6 is a dominant 7 with a major third. I also said that. So there's a tiny exception. So 2, 6 as a major third. 2, 5. Okay. 1. Okay. So how would you dissect that? 2, 6, 2, 5, 1. Okay. Then it's going up a fourth to F7, and then it's doing a 3, then it's falling down a semitone, which, now see, it's doing the thing I told you again. You see what I mean? It's going, you don't have to remember this, I'm just demonstrating little bits of songs randomly to prove my point. It's going onto the E, which is the, of course, 3 of C, and then it's dropping down to E flat whole diminished. But it's doing that thing again where it's a tritone substitution of A. A is the 6. So that's actually a tritone substitution of A. So it's kind of a 6 chord in a way. And then it's doing 2, and now it's doing a floating 2, 5, 1 into A. It's doing a floating 2, 5, 1 into the 6. So that has to be E half diminished, E7, A minor 7, and then it's doing a 2, 5 back into C. So you could learn that song very, very easily. Let's just pick out another random song. This is totally random. You really will be able to just go through here and pick out a song. I just saw Georgia on my mind. Classic Ray Charles piece there. This is in the key of F. 1, floating 2, 5, 1 into the 6. E half diminished, A7, D. A little bit of a bass movement there. And then eventually going on to 3, A minor 7, 6, 2, 5, and then repeating that again, 3, 6, 2, 5 quickly. That's kind of the piece really. And then the second part is based on the 6. So it's going 6, 3, 6 to the minor, and then again 6, 3, 6, 2, da, da, da. There's patterns that you're seeing everywhere in these pieces, and that's my point. So I'm hoping that in the description box below you'll find your favorite pieces from this website or from anywhere else, and you'll say, oh, I'm learning this song, whatever it might be, and this is the chord progression. 6, 2, 5, 1, there it is. Floating 2, 5, 1 into the third, there it is. Going up a fourth, there it is. Alternating between, for example, 2 and 6, there it is. And proving to others that this is really what it's all about. So there is just one jazz song, and if I wanted to compose a song now in the key of F, it would not be anything new. It would just be, you know, 1, let's go 1, 2, 3, floating 2, 5, 1 into the 4. and then let's do a 3-6-2 onto the 5, and then let's change that to become a 2-5-1 into B flat again, and let's go for 4, and then let's maybe drop down into a 2-5-1 onto the 5, which is C. You know, that's what jazz is about. That's all the progressions are doing, that kind of thing, with very few exceptions. Sometimes a major third, not a minor. Sometimes a half diminished and not a minor 7. Going up a 4 can sometimes happen more than once. It might go up a 4, up a 4, up a 4, and then come all the way back to the master key somehow. So I really hope that you can take away from this video I just remembered something. This philosophy, and apply it to any song that you want to learn. In my comedy notebook, at the back, I have my list, another behind the scenes here for you, of 114 songs that I used to play when I used to play in hotels and restaurants and all that. And you can see there are ticks next to them. 1 or 2 I didn't really sort of end up playing so much. And it's alphabetical order, and I learnt these in exactly the way I'm telling you. And before I realized the philosophy that most of these are all the same. Here's Georgia. It's in Georgia, one I just showed you. I think I have a tutorial on my channel somewhere, very old, yellowy video. Don't go and look at that. Lovely song, I Wish You Love. It's a lovely song. I think I have a tutorial on that too. And it goes all the way down to 114. And you know, I learnt these songs in exactly the way I'm telling you, that it's all based on 2-5-1, floating 2-5-1, 6-2-5-1, 3-6-2-5-1, 1-4-5, upper 4th, 1-4-5. I think I said that's the bluesy one. 1-5-6-4, the more poppy. These tiny alterations, and lots of moving around in fourths. If you can dissect your piece with this knowledge, it doesn't matter what the key is. You will be able to acquire a lot of jazz repertoire very quickly, because you're basically playing the same one jazz song. So hopefully that's helped you. As always, likes, comments, subscriptions, always welcome. Be sure to press the bell, have a look at my books, blog and podcast, and I'll see you in the next video. All the best, and bye for now.